So let's start with what makes Penn so special. So Penn is obviously a large school. We were the first in the nation to be founded. We were founded by Ben Franklin in 1740, and then the School of Engineering was founded about 100 years after that. We're one of the 12 graduate schools across the university. We have 15 programs, 15 master's programs for on-campus programs, and we have 6 PhD programs. We also have 3 online programs as well. We have 19 research centers and institutes across the university doing a lot of incredible research around things like artificial intelligence, engineering and healthcare, robotics, just to name a few. And because Penn is such a large institution, we have access to so many incredible resources, both during your time at Penn and after, once you're an alumni, that are accessible to you kind of for the rest of your life. So we are also located in the exciting and innovative city of Philadelphia, which, if you haven't been to yet, is an incredible place. There's a lot of great opportunities and things to do here, and I think that's part of what makes Penn such a wonderful place. So I want to talk a little bit about Philadelphia because Penn is located really kind of right in the middle of it. So it's the 6th largest city in the US. It's very large. It has, a ton of history, art, culture, different, always kind of things to do on the weekends, educational opportunities, just a hub of excitement and innovation. It's an old city, but it's kind of growing and expanding in a really cool way. It's also one of the more affordable cities on the East Coast compared to some of the other larger cities, namely New York City and Washington, D.C. But it's also really nicely located, very close to both of those cities, as well as cities like Baltimore. We have a great airport, really easy to get around, kind of to anywhere you might want to go. Additionally, in the city, we have really accessible public transportation. So if you are a walker like I am, it's really easy to walk, but you can also take buses, trolleys, trains. We have a plethora of options in order to get around the city. We have wonderful outdoor spaces and parks. We actually have one of the largest park systems called Fairmount Park, where you can do all types of things. You can walk, run, ride horses, play tennis, anything that your outdoor heart desires. We really have opportunities for here. It's also, Philadelphia is a booming and kind of growing area for the tech industry. So we have a lot of different areas in tech, manufacturing, science centers, and things like that. So here's a list of our master's programs. You'll see an asterisk next to 2 of them. The MCIT program and the data science program, those also have online options, which we're not going to talk about today, but you can look on our YouTube page for a lot of great information about those as options as well. And then we also have 6 PhD programs. Again, this session is really going to actually focus on 4 of our master's programs, but just know that we do have PhD opportunities as well. And Penn is, and engineering as a whole is such a large school within the university, but we really want to make sure that you're staying connected with peers, with colleagues. So there's a number of different opportunities both across the university as well as within Penn, within engineering as a school. So the top portion of this slide is really focused on opportunities for engineering students to get involved with one another. So there's a lot of different groups. There's different offices for support. There's a graduate office for staff that really help advise you along the way, and that's accessible to you via, virtual or in-person office hours. So there's a lot of great opportunities to stay and get connected. And then the bottom portion of this slide is really for groups, not just at engineering, but graduate groups across the university. So one of the great things about Penn is that there are 12 different graduate schools. So you can really get involved across the university. You can meet people outside of just your degree program or your school. So some of those opportunities are the Graduate and Professional Student Assembly, or GAPSA, which is really a great opportunity for graduate students to make sure that their voice is heard across the university and do both fun and academic activities. There's also the Graduate Student Center, which is a center that is specific to graduate and professional studies. So they'll do a lot of different programming that are specific to graduate students, which is really quite nice. They also have free coffee and tea, which is really essential as a graduate student. And then for any international students, there's the International Student and Scholar Services Department, which really helps throughout the entirety of the visa process, making sure that you can get to campus, stay at campus. Any questions you have about really the visa process as a whole, they're a really wonderful resource. And if you are an international student, you get assigned your own personal advisor through ISSS. So I want to quickly go through the application requirements. So the first thing is the actual online application, which really houses all of these materials, as well as some background information on who you are. In additional, within that is your resume. So we ask for about a 1 or 2 page resume. Nothing too fancy, because sometimes the formatting can be different based on what you see than what we see on our side on the application system. So I always think kind of being more straightforward is best. And then personal statement, we do ask, and the prompts are actually on our website now, so you could get started if you haven't already. But we do ask you a number of different questions, and we do ask that you complete all of the questions and answer all of the questions. It's really important because we kind of really thoughtfully created those personal statement prompts, so we'd love for you to answer those as well. Letters of recommendation are really important. So there are 2 letters that are required. Make sure you're having these conversations with your recommenders early to make sure that they have the time and they're excited to submit letters of recommendation on your behalf. One should be academic in nature, one should be professional in nature, as much as possible. If you graduated, a number of years ago and you don't really have that academic connection, you can sub that out for maybe a professional letter of recommendation instead. And then the application fee, we do have a $90 application fee that is not waived for any reason. So that is part of the application. You do have to pay the fee along with the application if you want your application to be reviewed for admission. Transcripts, I know, are an ongoing kind of set of questions that we get. So all transcripts are required from any degree granting institutions or anywhere where you took classes and got grades. And then English proficiency scores are applicable for non-US citizens and those whose first language is not English, which we'll get into again in just a moment. Lastly, our GRE scores. So they are optional. You will hear from some of our programs about, some of their preferences. If you do submit GRE scores, they must come to us via ETS. So they have to be official. They have to be valid within the last 5 years. Okay, and then just circling back really quickly on English proficiency scores. So those that are not US citizens whose first language is not English have to submit an English proficiency score. We do accept the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, and we've listed the suggested scores for those tests as well. We have waivers for this requirement. So you can see that if you have or will be graduating from a program within the US, from a school in a country where English is the official language, or where the medium of instruction was English, and that's clearly indicated, then this will be waived. But please know that it's not waived automatically. There is someone from my team who is waiving that requirement. So it will not be done immediately. It can take up to 3 to 5 business days to see that reflected in your application checklist. So please, after you submit your application, just be a little patient with our team. Okay, and I just want to end here and then pass it over to programs, but some important dates and deadlines. So the programs we have in attendance, MCIT, CIS, Robotics, and Data Science, have an optional early admission deadline of November 1st. They also have a regular admission deadline or a final admission deadline of February 3rd, as well as all of our other master's programs as well. And then all PhD programs applications are due December 16th, and you'll get your decision by early April. And so now I'm going to pass it over to the CIS and MCIT programs to talk a little bit more about the programs.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. So I'll get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Swapnil Sheth. You can call me Swap. I'm the program director for CIS MSc. And for the next 15 to 20 minutes, Arvind and I will talk about the two specific programs, CIS MSc and MCIT. Arvind, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself before we get to the slide?
Yeah, hi folks. Excited to be talking to all of you all. I'm the MCIT director, and as Swap said, we'll be telling you about both our programs because there's a fair bit in common. That's why we're going to be bouncing back and forth. Yeah, go ahead, Swap.
Cool. Thanks, Arvind. So as far as CIS MSc is concerned, just to have a little bit of context for all of you, we have a whole bunch of master's programs. You'll hear from some of the other directors soon. So the way I think of CIS MSc is it's sort of the traditional master's in computer science program, and then we have a whole bunch of specialized ones. And what I mean by this is for CIS MSc, we are assuming that your undergrad was in something related to computer science. So it doesn't have to be exactly computer science. It could be computer engineering, different places call it different things. Sometimes it's called IT. But here's some examples of courses that we assume that you have taken before. So this would include things like algorithms theory. It would include things like programming languages, operating systems, data structures, discrete math. So if you've taken these courses, then you'll be a really good fit and a strong applicant as far as CIS MSc is concerned. But if you haven't, one of the other programs might be a better fit for you. So essentially, as I said, we are assuming you have some strong background in computer science, and then you could be part of the master's program. So let's talk a little bit about what the courses are and what you could do while you are here. So pretty much all of the master's programs that we have require 10 courses. For CIS MSc, we have 4 core courses and then 6 electives. So let's walk through the list. So for the 4 courses, we have a few different buckets. So for example, we have a theory bucket where you have choices of 2 courses, analysis of algorithms or theory of computation. Similarly, we have a systems bucket where you have 4 choices, software systems, operating systems, network systems, and internet and web systems. And then we have the machine learning bucket, which involves intro to machine learning, and AI. And then we have a couple of other core courses such as software foundations and computer architecture. So if you were in CIS MSc, you have to take 4 out of these choices that are on the slide, subject to a couple of constraints. So the constraints are everyone needs to take one theory course, so either 502 or 511. Everyone has to take one systems course, so any of those 4 that we've listed. And you can take at most one machine learning course as part of the core. But you also have electives. So in your electives, you can take essentially any CIS graduate course. So this is from CIS 5000 to 7000. And you also get to take other CIS or non-CIS courses. So obviously we are very proud of our department. We think we have a really fantastic faculty, but so are a lot of other departments in engineering and in the whole university. So we want to have you have the ability to take classes outside of computer science if that's what you're interested. So you can take other classes in other engineering departments. For example, you can take classes in Wharton, you can take classes in the College of Arts and Sciences. So you get all of those choices. And of course, as part of all of this, if you're interested in doing things like research, you're very welcome to do that. So that could count as one of your courses. If you work with a faculty member, you could do a master's thesis if you're interested. So that's pretty much it as far as CIS MSc is concerned. I'll come back and talk more about this later and happy to take questions, but I'll hand it over to Arvind for MCIT next.
All right, thanks, Swap. So the MCIT program is basically like a companion program in some sense, in that it's for folks who do not have computer science backgrounds. So folks who have done, for example, the sciences, economics, and then they're excited about computer science, want to get into the computer science universe, That's our program, and we've had a variety of like really interesting majors all across the board. So we've included ones, some of them over here. So for example, piano, photography, and what's cool is that all of these folks have succeeded in our program. Um, the idea behind the MCIT is that it's a 2-year program, the same 10 credit unit requirement, but there are more core courses. So 60% of the program is core courses so that you get good foundations. So 6 core courses divided into 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring. So in the fall, you do basically intro to programming, discrete math, and then computer architecture, like what's going on behind the scenes, bits, bytes, transistors, all that stuff. And then Spring, in some sense, are the slightly more advanced versions of the fall courses. So the programming course connects to the data structures course, the discrete math course connects, or rather is a prerequisite to the algorithms course. And last but not least, the computer architecture course connects to the systems programming course. After year 1, when you've finished all these core courses, then you take 4 elective courses. And the cool thing about the elective courses is that you're taking those elective courses with other CS graduate students, so folks from data science, from like CIS masters, all of those folks. And you're also Swap talked about the non-computer science courses. You're allowed to take one non-CS course if you so desire. Of course, you could totally take all 4 within the computer science department. So yeah, so that's the MCIT requirement side, and we'll talk more about this as well. I'll hand it back to Swap, who will tell you more about our programs.
Cool, thanks, Arvind. So some of this stuff is, I think, largely true across most programs, but since we were going first, I thought I'll just start with some of these things. So in general, at Penn, you have 2 options of whether you want to be a full-time student or a part-time student. Of course, there are some restrictions. So if you are an international student, you have to be full-time. And what that means is you need to be enrolled in 3 classes or more. Typically, we recommend 3. And if you are a domestic student, you don't have to be full time. So you could be part time if you so choose. So as far as Penn the graduate side of like engineering is concerned, 3 classes and above is full time. Anything below that is part time. So if you're in CIS MSc, the typical workload that you'll have. So remember, we said like you need to take a total of 10 classes. So typically, what people will do is they'll take 3 classes in fall, 3 classes in spring. So they'll have 6 classes in their first academic year. A lot of people decide to do internships in the summer, but you could take more classes or do research if you want. And then in the second fall, you'll take 3 more classes, and then you'll have 1 class remaining for your 4th semester. And if you're an international student, that's perfectly fine to take 1 class in your last semester because that's your last semester. And then if you are a domestic student, you don't have to follow this outline. You can if it makes sense for you, but we've had a lot of international students who'll just take 2 classes and spread it out over 5 semesters, for example, and that's totally allowed, but only if you're a domestic student. And moving on, so I know Abby talked a little bit about like admission requirements a little bit earlier, but let me just talk a little bit more from the CIS MSc perspective. So as we mentioned, like the things that we are really looking for is a combination of things, which is we want to see like what your classes are and like what your background is. So that's part of like what you would include. As far as your personal statement is concerned, what we really want to know is stuff that is not really obvious looking at your transcript. So what are your goals? What are your interests? Why do you want to be in this program specifically as opposed to some other program? Why do you want to be at Penn specifically as opposed to some other university? So that's sort of some examples of like things that we look for. For letters of recommendation, we generally recommend having someone who can talk specifically about you as opposed to speaking in like vague generalities. So if you have an instructor or like a work like manager, for example, who's worked with you and can say specific things about this is what this person did, that makes for a stronger letter of recommendation. For GRE, like as we mentioned earlier, scores are optional, but if you have taken the GRE and have scores to report, we encourage you to do so. And then finally, the resume. So please make sure to include like any relevant information in the resume. So if you have some like work experience that is not really reflected elsewhere, you could include in your resume. You could like include any other training, certificates, etc. that you've done. If you've taken some other courses in some other institution, you could include those in the resume too. And here's just like a broad sense of like how big these programs are. So for this year, so these are numbers current for this semester. So in CIS MSc, we have a total of about 130 new students this year. So the first sort of bullet, 86 masters, those are the external students. So these are people from like other institutions than Penn who are now part of Penn. We also have a program for our undergrads to be part of the accelerated masters. So we have 46 of those. And then for MCIT, the numbers are a little similar, but a little bit smaller. So for the new first year students, there's a total of 79. And almost all of the MCIT students are external. There are very few accelerated master students for MCIT. Cool. And then I think somebody had asked this in chat, so I think it's a good thing for us to briefly talk about. But like, how do students like sort of connect and like talk to each other and things like that? So let me mention a few things. This again like varies a lot, but all of you, like if you are in the master's program, you will have a faculty advisor and potentially a staff advisor as well. So we will be, for example, I'm the faculty advisor for all of CIS. So we'll be like the first points of contact, and you can come and talk to us one-on-one. But we also have like weekly advising officers. We'll hold like roughly once a month like social events where we invite folks from industry, alums. Sometimes we'll talk about like course advising. Sometimes we'll do like sort of more fun things like board games and things like that. And we also have a Slack group for students to sort of talk to us, to talk to each other. And there's also like Facebook and LinkedIn and things like that. And for the next part, I'll just hand it back to Arvind, then he'll talk about some other sort of common Penn resources.
Yeah, thanks again, Swap. Yeah. The first thing that we wanted to just highlight, actually re-highlight some of them, because Abby's already spoken about them to some extent. There are many, many great cultural and other resources available in at Penn. Like Penn's a very diverse school, so we have centers for many different subgroups of our student population, whether it's the LGBTQ center, whether it's related to international students. So this is a by no means complete list of all the resources that are available. And yeah, what I find very satisfying and awesome about Penn is the fact that most students, after they've been here for a couple of weeks even, are able to find their best resource for many, many different things. Let's move on to talk about something that I think a lot of our master students especially are interested in knowing about, like what are the outcomes in terms of being able to land internships and jobs. So a couple of things. First, like for international students, you can do a summer internship or what's called as CPT in the first summer. The rule is that you have to finish at least 6 course units. There's also the option of doing an academic field study, as we call it, during the fall semester of their second year. So for if you have an internship that's, maybe you started the internship in the summer and then it's going longer than just the summer term, then you can do this academic field study option. There's a lot of good internships that people have managed to land, and here are some examples of them. In fact, if you're more curious about these outcomes in terms of like what internships people get, that a lot of that information is publicly available on our career services website that we have the link to over there. So let's move on and talk about what happens in terms of like the job possibilities. So this includes the job possibilities and also like further studies possibilities for both CIS and CIT. So CIS students, a fair number of them join the software development industry, but there's also a fair percentage that have continued on to do their PhDs. So for example, this is just again like some sample of those outcomes. So people have gone on to do PhDs in other schools, and also people have continued on to do PhDs at Penn. For MCIT, the percentage who are continuing on for further studies is a lot lower because they just entered the CIS universe, computer science universe. Largely, it's software engineering jobs. But what's interesting and cool from the MCIT perspective is that a lot of our MCIT graduates are able to land jobs in basically a lot of the like big tech firms and similar job profile in some sense to the regular CIS masters. Again, a lot more information on the postgraduate income. They basically survey folks when they're graduating, and we have all of those results compiled on the career services website. Um, yeah, let's move on and talk about who we're looking for. This is probably the part that most of y'all are like very interested about. Like, how do you make your application stand out? So we've talked about like what we need in just in terms of the paperwork, but here are some points that we're looking for. So strong grades and coursework. I think whether it's CIS or CIT, both of the programs need that. For CIT, I will mention because we're saying actually that you haven't done computer science prior to applying to CIT, so that coursework and just proving that you're a strong student in whatever you majored in becomes perhaps slightly more important. Test scores, if applicable. So again, we said that the GRE is optional. If you with the GRE, it's sort of like if you're doing the GRE and submitting a score. I will say with the MCIT program, one thing that we are looking for is just convince us in some manner that you can handle like mathematical stuff. So one way of doing that could be taking the GRE and then getting a good, quantitative score. Again, like good. Some folks have asked in the chat, like, what is the threshold? It does vary from year to year. So I wouldn't, actually toss out a number over there. Then your resume, we've talked a little bit about that. In the resume, talk about things that you have done. Specifically from the MCIT standpoint, sometimes students are a little bit worried, hey, we haven't done anything in computer science. That's totally fine. In fact, that's exactly what we're looking for when you're applying for MCIT, especially. The personal statement, please include why you're interested in the program. Tell us like why you would be a great candidate, and give us evidence either in your personal statement or if your recommenders can talk specifically about things that you have done that will make you be a great contributor to the student community. That's definitely something to highlight. Last but not least, students who can basically add value, students who would be happy to take up like leadership positions. We have, like GAPSA, the graduate student board, things like that, where just, not convince us that you'll be more than just coming here, studying. You'd want to be engaged with the community. That would be fantastic. Yeah. Right.
Great. Thank you both so much. I'm going to go pass it over to Robotics.
Hello, my name is Ani Shia, and I am the program chair for the Robotics MSc program. For those of you who are not familiar, Robotics MSc is within the family of MSc degrees that is within the purview of the Computer and Information Science department here at Penn in the School of Engineering. However, the program is actually managed by the GRASP lab. So GRASP stands for the General Robotics, Automation, Sensing, and Perception Lab. And it is the oldest robotics lab in the world. It was established by Dr. Rujna Bachi in 1979. And of course, we are housed in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. As of today, we are, the lab consists of 24 primary faculty that is spread across 3 main departments within the School of Engineering. So this is Computer Information Science, mechanical engineering and applied mechanics, as well as electrical and systems engineering. We also have 9 secondary faculty, and the secondary faculty comes from all across the university, from School of Architecture, School of Design, School of Nursing, and School of Medicine, as well as we have one research faculty that has the dual appointment with the School of Dentistry, with the dental school. So if you look, so the lab is not a department, and because of this, you will see certain unique structure of the program. So we currently have about 130 something PhD students. We are over, depending on the year, we're anywhere between 225 to 250, sometimes even up to 260 Robo MSc students. And we have approximately 19 research staff, and this, as well as administrative staff. So if you look at the kinds of research that the faculty does, the way I like to describe this is if your robot walks, if it drives, if it swims, if it crawls, if it flies, think of any kind of motion modality, we do it. If your robot is on the scale of a single human cell, all the way to a full-size flying vehicle, or a full-size, boat, we do that as well. So if you think about the scope of robotics, effectively the GRASP faculty covers it all. So our facilities are primarily spread out across 2 main locations, one on campus, which is GRASP at Levine, and a lot of our outdoor testing facilities, as well as our Robo project sort of hosting space that is being hosted at the Penn campus. So thanks very much to Swap and to Arvind for such a detailed description of the general structure of the MSc program here at Penn. So like the other programs, we are a 10-course unit with 3 options. So you can do a course-only option. So all your 10 credits, you just, one course unit corresponds to 1 class. So that just means you take 10 classes and that completes your degree. You can do a thesis option, which means that you're taking 8 classes, and then 2 of those course units will be effectively thesis credits. So you will have on your transcript, it looks like you have 2 thesis courses, right? And then you have a Robo capstone project option. And so the capstone project is very similar in structure, because you take 8 courses and then you have 2 credit units to do capstone. Now, fundamentally, the difference between thesis and capstone is that the thesis is an individual endeavor. So this is individual research, right, that is advised by a faculty advisor. And whereas the capstone project is a group endeavor. So this is a, sort of project that is done within a group. Oftentimes we have both an industrial sponsor in collaboration with a faculty advisor. So out of these 10 course units, you have to complete what we call 3 course units in the 4 foundational areas. So 3 of your classes, right, has to be in, you have to pick, 3 classes, and they have to span, sort of 4 of these areas. So I'm listing those areas for you. Then you have 5 technical electives. And so on the GRASP Robo website, you can find a list of sort of approved technical electives, and then 2 general electives. The great thing about being at Penn is that a lot of our students end up picking up entrepreneurship courses that is being offered whether within CUs or in conjunction with work. Let's move on. So those of you who are interested, that video, this is just the final project competition for a mechatronics class. So feel free to go on YouTube and take a look. It's on, you should be able to find it from the GRASP website. A couple things to just comment. Admissions to Robo is highly competitive. Applicants are strongly encouraged to apply by using this early deadline. And part of this is because we understand that there are other highly competitive robotics programs that you're considering, and we want to make sure that we are providing sort of admissions decisions in a timely manner so that you are able to make the best decision about which program you would like to join. GRE scores are not required, they are optional, but we do strongly encourage you to apply. I know in the chat session, there were some questions about the statistics of past applicants and admitted students. If you go to the sort of application information website from the GRASP laboratory, there is a link that will show you sort of the history of the statistics of past admitted students. So the great thing about being part of Robo at Penn is that you are immediately admitted into the larger GRASP community. GRASP, even though we're not a department, we actually have a lot of community centered activities specific to this common interest surrounding robotics. We have 2 seminar series, the flagship, which is GRASP on Robotics, as well as a student-run seminar series, which is the FSI series. We have annual industry days where we invite people, members from industry, and we have this great exchange of ideas through talks, through poster sessions, and also sometimes on-site interviews. We also do our annual resume pool. Sometimes we do it twice a year, depending on the demand. And then we also have a lot of ways for students to participate and engage and sort of assume leadership roles. And of course, our alums, a lot of them go on to academia in the form of PhD programs at other universities or they stay at Penn. A lot of them get hired by startups or they join sort of, your standard big robotics firms. And I think that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I have. I provided the YouTube link because I know we're short on time. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was really informative. And then last but certainly not least, I'm going to pass it along for the data science program.
Thank you so much. My name is Susan Davidson, and I'm a professor in the Department of Computer and Information Science. I'm the co-faculty director of the Masters of Data Science program at Penn. And I want to thank Swap and Arvind, who came before me, for giving such a wonderful description of many things that I won't go over again, and Dani also for many of the things that she mentioned. So I'm going to just focus on what's different in the Masters of Data Science program. So what are we all about? Well, there's this huge flood of data and this huge interest in AI. And so what we're really about is helping people make decisions on this flood of data. And it prepares students for a wide variety of data-centric careers. So if you were to do the MS Computer Science or the MCIT degree, then you're more software engineering, and we're more on the data side of the world. And so if you look at the right of the screen, you will see that the curriculum, which is also 10 credit units, same as the other programs, really has 3 components. The first is foundations. Everybody needs to know how to program well, and you need to understand linear algebra. And so those are sort of the foundational courses. Linear algebra is essentially for understanding much of machine learning. And as we'll see later, based on who are we looking for in the program, you may have taken some of those courses. And so there's always the option to waive and replace with more advanced courses in the curriculum. At the core is our 3 courses. Statistics is, again, foundational to data science. Machine learning is a core aspect, and there's many, many courses across the campus. many in the engineering school, which can be used to fulfill this. And then we have a capstone course that was created for this program called Big Data Analytics. And there you learn how to work with data at scale. And so this is the 3 courses that are sort of the core that you then build your own journey into data science through. And so the remaining 5 courses, or 7 if you've waived the foundations, the remaining courses can really come from any number of what we like to call buckets. So we've taken courses from across the university and we've tried to put them into different types of buckets like biomedicine, social and network science, data-centric programming, survey and statistics methods, and so on. So the nice thing about this program is it's very, you can personalize it to your particular interests in data science. Now, one of the things, and I think that Ani also mentioned this in the GRASP robotics program, we encourage strongly, but don't force our students to do either a 1 or 2 sort of independent study or thesis sequence of courses. So rather than just doing coursework, which is lovely, many employers like to see evidence of independent work that's either practical or more theoretical. And so for those who want to do a practical project-based course, we allow people to do that. And for people who want to do more of a thesis, which is definitely individual work, we allow them to do that. And the number of different applications of data science are enormous. We have students who have done work in medical imaging in collaboration with the medical school, social language, genomics. We've looked at climate change with others throughout the school, healthcare, equity, and justice. These are all of the topics, the types of areas in which these master's theses or practicum projects are being done. This can be done because the University of Pennsylvania is a big campus, and that's what one of the things that you are buying into here is the number of different interests and strengths across the school. From the Annenberg Center for Public Policy, we have lovely relationships there. Wharton, customer analytics, they do a number of important things. Penn Medicine. And so all across campus, we have partners in research, and many of them are looking for students to do projects and partner with them. So just to give you an idea, this program has been enormously successful since it started in 2017. In 2017, we had 25 students. And now we are getting, as of the last application deadline, over 2,000 applications, of which we can only admit a certain number. And that our number that we admitted last year was 187, because we need to make sure that all of our students can take the courses that they need to graduate. And the courses in this program are very in demand across campus. So we currently have 240 students. 47 students in the program, of whom 77 are external, people like you who would be applying from the outside. But there's also a number of students who either are undergrads in our current programs and do what we call an accelerated master's, so they stay at Penn and complete an undergraduate degree. And I saw in the questions also that there were questions about, can we transfer between programs? And the answer is yeah, maybe. Not everybody is able to transfer into data science. And people also do dual master's degrees. So we have all sorts of different types of people in the program. So we have a very diverse set of interests, for, again, mirroring the different application areas that we see for data science across campus. I'm sure you all want to know, where do our graduates go? And we have been very successful in placing our graduates. There are all sorts of opportunities within Penn Engineering to do career fairs, to have advice on your resume through career services. We in the data science program have very strong connections to our alumni, and we have a number of discussions with them on what the job market is like. But if you look at the types of jobs that people are getting, they're getting job titles of data scientists, some are software engineers still, some are data engineers. And the top 5 companies that have been hiring our graduates are places like Amazon, Barclays, Bloomberg, and so on. So, so our students do very well. And I think that the wonderful thing is no 2 students really look alike coming out of this program, because they really do personalize this courses. So again, what are we looking for in applicants? It goes without saying that we're looking for strong grades and coursework, GREs, a high GRE score. Quantitative score is very helpful. So I've seen questions about, is the GRE necessary? It's not necessary, but it's really helpful. So I would recommend that you do that. We are really looking for people with strength in computer science, because we're assuming they can jump into courses in the engineering school, not the Wharton School, in the engineering school. And many of those courses, like machine learning or natural language processing, many of those courses require that you have strength in programming already. So essentially, we're looking for a minor in computer science, which means that you've taken courses in programming, discrete math, and data structures. So do you know sort of the basics of those things? We also do look for people. A lot of our applicants have done undergraduate degrees in statistics. A number of our students have also done undergraduate degrees in discrete math or economics, and done enough computer science along the way. So we're looking for equivalent of a minor in computer science with strength, quantitative strength. And because we have so many applicants, we're looking for a real passion for data science and a passion to do that at Penn. So how do you evidence that passion? Well, on your resume, it could be that you have project work. Maybe you've done an internship where you already did data science, or something like that. And also in the personal statement, we really look for people who are going to bring something to the program. In particular, a different dimension to data science. We have a lot of students who are very, very interested in finance or in biomedicine, and that's wonderful. We love them. But we're also very intrigued by people with other interests, other applications of data science. And whether you would be able to bring something to contribute to the life of the program. Have you been a TA as an undergraduate? I know that there were also questions on the chat about, are there TA and RA opportunities? And we are in computer science always looking for teaching assistants for our course if you have expertise in that. So yes, we love people who have experience being TAs as undergraduates. We also love leaders, you know, people who are willing to create community within the program, help with our relationships to our alumni, those types of things. So, so your personal statement, yes, we can read your resume, but your personal statement is your opportunity to make your case. And there you should bring all of the strengths together that position you to do extremely well in our program.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for all of that information and coming through. So I just want to really quickly, for anyone who is interested in future events or programming, we have a couple webinars coming up similar to this. So you have Ask Admissions webinars, and then more informal coffee chats that are really more for you as prospective students to come off mute, or on camera, and ask any additional questions that you have. So we do have some really awesome program coordinators who are going to be joining us for those events. So those are available on our website as well.